Hello, church. It's great to be able to bring this message today. I've really enjoyed this series in Lent. Um, and I'm looking at today at Matthew 6:33. Strive first for the kingdom of God, and his righteousness will be given to you. This is a really interesting passage, actually. It's just after the Beatitudes in chapter 5, and it carries on in that sort of discussion. Jesus is bringing stuff, and he's bringing a corrective. And here he brings 7 points: one on giving, about doing it in secret and not in public, about prayer, about fasting, about storing wealth, about what we view, about serving money and God, that you can't do both. And then he comes to this point, which is in do not worry. And all of this is about holiness. How do we stay holy? Um, and it's a corrective. And in this do not worry part, he's saying, don't worry about for tomorrow, because God will supply your needs. And then it comes to this point. But strive first for the kingdom of God, and his righteousness will be given to you as well. And that's a really interesting passage. He seems to be saying here, don't worry like the non-Christians, because, when crisis happens, we can turn to him and God is in charge. But what is really crucial here is the second point, which is very different. It clinches on this point of 6:33. It's about us in the community of believers. And I'll explain that as I go further. But strive first for the kingdom of God, and his righteousness will be given to you. So in some versions, kingdom of God doesn't appear. This is in the NRSV version. And this is more of a literal translation. And that kingdom of God appears 71 times in the New Testament, and it's often heralding kingdom, or King Jesus, or the kingdom coming. And in this, traditionally, when we look at this verse, we see it, and it's about our personal relationship and holiness with God. If we strive for the kingdom of God, his righteousness will be given to us, and we'll get what we want, sort of. He'll supply our needs, it would be a better word. But that it's really key to understand this is this word righteousness. You see, in the Greek, this word actually is, Arthur, you can correct me, you know Greek better than me, but diki usunai. And that this word, it classically can mean Jesus' righteousness for our sin. But actually, quite often it's also used as seeking to do God's justice within the world. It's a word of justice despite our circumstances. Again, really interestingly, this only appears 7 times in Matthew. He's also saying, seek first, in all things, and even in a crisis, seek to do God's justice, keep God's integrity, and he will give you peace. And what's really interesting about this is that it's a command really to the church. He's saying, seek first the kingdom of God, to do his justice. It's to be re-understood, not to seek God personally so we get our needs, but to be understood as if we are the priesthood of believers and we are following his righteousness, then the church will be seeking, even in crisis, to do his justice. He's correcting here. And you've got to remember that Jesus is Jewish and he would have been brought up on the law. And the law is key here. It's lots of Levitical law, really. He's saying, don't do what the pagans do, but do what I have commanded you. Circumcise then. This is in Deuteronomy 10:16. Circumcise then the foreskin of your heart, and do not be stubborn any longer. And it's about following God's righteousness to bring about peace and to give to the needs of others. So it fits in really well when you look at the context of this passage. He's spoken about giving. So he's saying, if you're going to bless people within your community, you don't have to tell people, just bless them. Be a blessing. And there's this beautiful covenant promise in Deuteronomy 15, just this little bit between, well, there's loads of it, but and it says, There will, however, be no one in need among you, because the Lord will bless you in that land. And it goes on in these passages, lots within the law, about blessing others who don't have needs. And so rather than this passage being understood about God giving us everything we need, it's actually like a command about us giving to others, looking for that need within our own community, and looking to bless those who may be in need, who may be struggling, however that may be. We often see God in the Bible um, operate in different way when he distributes resources. Sometimes we see him give manna, and that is, given by God. And if you haven't read Dirty Glory, I'd encourage you to read a book called Dirty Glory, because God makes money appear for people in need, but most often than not, God uses relationships to bring about the justice of God. He uses us, which we are his ambassadors, and it's quite incredible, you know. And he's given us this point um, as a covenant. We're doing this, and we're filling out God's holiness for us to bring about the kingdom of God, to bring about that peace of God and righteousness and justice that it speaks about, to bring peace to others. And that's what I think this passage is actually speaking about. How, in a crisis, can we bless others? And that's what I maybe want to leave with you today. But strive first for the kingdom of God, and his righteousness will be given to you as well. How can we be a blessing to those in need today?